Once upon a time in a village in Zambia, there was a boy named Lumo. Lumo was curious and brave, always asking questions and exploring new places. One day, his grandfather, an old and wise man named Kafui, called him over and said, "Lumo, it is time for you to learn about the Makisha." "The Makisha?" Lumo asked, his eyes wide with curiosity. "Who are they?" Grandfather Kafui smiled. "The Makisha are spirits of our ancestors. They come to help us during important ceremonies, especially when boys like you are becoming men. They teach us courage, wisdom, and the ways of our people." Lumo was excited. He had heard whispers about the Makisha from other children, but he had never seen them himself. "Can I meet them, grandfather?" "Yes," Kafui said, "but you must be patient. The time will come soon." A few weeks later, the village prepared for the Mukanda, the initiation ceremony where boys become men. Lumo and other boys his age were taken to a special camp in the forest. They were taught many things: how to hunt, how to build shelters, and the history of their people. Every night, they sat around the campfire, listening to stories from the elders. One night, as the full moon shone brightly, the air filled with a strange and exciting energy. The boys heard drums beating in the distance. "What's happening?" Lumo whispered to his friend, Mosi. Before Mosi could answer, Grandfather Kafui appeared with a serious look on his face. "Tonight, you will meet the Makisha," he said. The boys followed Kafui deeper into the forest until they reached a clearing. There, in the moonlight, stood figures dressed in colorful, elaborate costumes. They wore masks with long, flowing hair and had faces that seemed both human and magical. Lumo's heart raced as he watched the Makisha dance around the fire, their movements graceful and powerful. Each Makisha represented a different ancestor, and each had a lesson to teach. One Makisha, named Chikubi, approached Lumo. Chikubi was known for his wisdom and gentle nature. He knelt down and looked into Lumo's eyes. "Lumo," Chikubi said in a deep, kind voice, "you have the heart of a lion and the mind of a hawk. Remember, true strength comes from within, and wisdom comes from listening and learning." Lumo nodded, feeling a sense of awe and responsibility. "I will remember, Chikubi." For the next few weeks, the Makisha continued to visit the camp, teaching the boys important lessons. They learned about respect, bravery, and the importance of their heritage. Lumo felt himself growing stronger and wiser with each passing day. One evening, as the sun set and the forest glowed with a golden light, Grandfather Kafui gathered the boys for a special announcement. "Tomorrow is the final day of your training. You will face a great challenge, one that will test everything you have learned." Lumo's heart pounded with a mix of excitement and nervousness. What could this challenge be? The next morning, the boys were led to the edge of a wide river. The water flowed swiftly, and on the other side stood a tall tree with a glowing fruit at the top. "This," Kafui said, "is the challenge of the river. To become men, you must find a way to cross the river and bring back the fruit. Work together, use your skills, and remember the lessons of the Makisha." Lumo looked at the river, then at his friends. They nodded at each other, determined to succeed. The challenge was daunting, but Lumo felt ready. He knew that with courage, wisdom, and teamwork, they could overcome any obstacle, and so, the boys began their journey, each step bringing them closer to their destiny. Lumo and the other boys studied the river, its swift currents intimidating. They knew they had to think carefully and work together to cross safely. Mosi spoke first, "We need a plan. Does anyone have an idea?" Another boy, Juma, pointed to a cluster of fallen logs nearby. "We can use those logs to build a raft," he suggested. Lumo nodded. "Good idea. Let's gather the logs and vines to tie them together." The boys worked together, using the skills they had learned from the elders and the Makisha. They tied the logs with strong vines, making a sturdy raft. With each boy contributing, the raft was soon ready. "Now, we need to be careful," Lumo said. "We'll take turns paddling and make sure no one falls off." The boys pushed the raft into the river and climbed on. The current was strong, but they paddled with determination. They remembered the lessons of the Makisha: teamwork, courage, and perseverance. As they reached the middle of the river, the water grew rougher. The raft rocked back and forth, and the boys held on tightly. Just then, a large wave hit the raft, and one of the boys, Temba, lost his balance and fell into the water. "Help!" Temba shouted, struggling against the current. Without hesitation, Lumo and Mosi jumped into the river. They swam quickly to Temba, grabbing his arms and pulling him back to the raft. With the others' help, they managed to get Temba back on board. "Are you okay, Temba?" Lumo asked, panting from the effort. Temba nodded, shivering but grateful. "Thanks to you too. I thought I was a goner." The boys continued paddling, more determined than ever. They reached the other side of the river, tired but triumphant. In front of them stood the tall tree with the glowing fruit at the top. "How will we get the fruit?" Mosi asked, looking up at the high branches. Lumo thought for a moment. "We can use a rope to climb the tree." "Who's the best climber among us?" Juma stepped forward. "I am. I've climbed taller trees back home." With a rope tied around his waist, Juma began to climb the tree. The boys watched anxiously as he made his way up, branch by branch. Finally, Juma reached the top and carefully picked the glowing fruit. He held it up, and the boys cheered. Juma climbed down slowly, holding the fruit securely. When he reached the ground, he handed it to Lumo. "You lead us here. You should carry it back." Lumo took the fruit with a sense of pride and responsibility. "We did this together. Let's head back." The journey back across the river was smoother, as they had learned from their earlier crossing. When they reached the other side, they were greeted by Grandfather Kafui and the Makisha, who had been watching from afar. Kafui smiled proudly. "You have faced the challenge of the river and succeeded. You have shown courage, wisdom, and unity. You are now ready to become men." The Makisha danced around the boys, celebrating their achievement. Lumo felt a deep connection to his ancestors and a strong sense of belonging. He knew that he and his friends had grown in ways they couldn't yet fully understand. That night, as the boys sat around the campfire, Lumo looked at the glowing fruit and smiled. He knew that their journey was just beginning, and with the lessons of the Makisha in their hearts, they could face any challenge that came their way. And so, the story of Lumo and the challenge of the river became a legend in their village, passed down through generations, inspiring young and old alike to embrace courage, wisdom, and the spirit of unity. As the sun rose the next morning, the village gathered for a grand ceremony. The boys, now on the verge of becoming men, stood proudly in front of their families and elders. Grandfather Kafui and the Makisha prepared for the final part of the initiation. Kafui began to speak. "Today, we celebrate your bravery and the lessons you have learned. You have proven yourselves worthy, and now, you will receive your new names, symbolizing your journey into manhood." One by one, the boys stepped forward. Each was given a name that reflected their qualities and experiences during the Mukanda. When it was Lumo's turn, he stood tall, feeling the weight of this important moment. "Lumo," Kafui said, his voice resonating with pride, "you will now be known as Mwenda, which means one who leads the way. You have shown great leadership and courage." Lumo, now Mwenda, accepted his new name with gratitude. He felt a deep sense of honor and responsibility. The other boys received their new names as well, each one meaningful and earned. After the naming ceremony, the Makisha performed a dance, weaving through the crowd with their vibrant costumes and masks. The villagers clapped and sang along, their voices filling the air with joy and pride. As the celebration continued, Mwenda noticed his younger sister, Kolechi, watching him with wide eyes. She approached him shyly. "Mwenda, will you tell me more stories about the Makisha?" Mwenda smiled, kneeling down to her level. "Of course, Kolechi. The Makisha have many stories and lessons. One day, you will learn them too." Kolechi's eyes sparkled with excitement. "I can't wait." As the day turned into evening, the village feast began. Tables were laden with delicious food, roasted meat, fresh fruits, and hearty stews. The aroma filled the air, and everyone ate and laughed together. Mwenda sat with his friends, now fellow young men, and they shared their hopes and dreams for the future. Mosi wanted to become a great hunter, Juma dreamed of building strong homes for the village, and Temba aspired to learn the healing arts from the elders. As they talked, Grandfather Kafui joined them. "Remember, Mwenda, Mosi, Juma, Temba, and all of you," he said, "the journey doesn't end here. The lessons of the Makisha are with you always. Use them to guide you, to help others, and to honor our ancestors." The boys nodded, understanding the importance of Kafui's words. They knew that their new names and the experiences of the Mukanda were just the beginning of their responsibilities as men of the village. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Mwenda looked up, feeling a sense of peace and purpose. He remembered the wisdom of Chikubi, the Makisha who had told him that true strength comes from within and wisdom from listening and learning. He vowed to live by those words. The celebration continued late into the night, with songs, dances, and laughter echoing through the village. Mwenda felt surrounded by love and support, ready to embrace his future with the courage and wisdom he had gained. And so, the legend of the Makisha lived on, a testament to the strength, unity, and enduring spirit of the village. Mwenda and his friends carried the legacy forward, knowing that they were part of a long and honorable tradition.